Welcome into In the Trenches with Tanner Kern and former CFL defensive lineman Maxx Forde. Max, week 3 is here. We're feeling good. Week 2 was fun. We took some things from it that we really enjoyed. We took some things we didn't like. So, Max, first off, what did you like in week 2 and what did you not like?
Sorry for starting backwards, but and I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but Carolina again, man. Like it's just bad. Hopefully, Andy Dalton can kind of help bring some life to that team, but obviously he's not playing there in the trenches, which I know we're focused on a little bit, and it's just not. It hasn't clicked yet. Not looking good. 2 weeks in a row, they just haven't been competitive. Excuse me. As far as what I did like, second as a defensive guy, it's another week in a row where I know we talked about for our fantasy teams and for betting those overs, we want to see some more offense. But as a defensive guy, you got to love what's going on right now. Holding offenses to a lot fewer points. But what really stood out to me was the Chicago Bears defense against that Houston team. I know they didn't come away with the win there, but that's the second week in a row that they've really put on a lot of clinic tape, teach tape there, and kept their team in the game, even though the offense isn't doing much right now. I know they got a rookie quarterback that has a lot expected of them, but it hasn't clicked for that offense yet. But they've been sticking in games, especially with Houston. That's a really good football team.
Yeah, 100%. For me, I think the biggest thing that I didn't like was the pass interference in the Bengals game versus the Chiefs. Obviously, it was PI there, but I hate seeing the Chiefs get bailed out once again on a stupid mistake when the offensive line and the Bengals offense played really well. Biggest thing I liked, the Saints offense looks really good right now with Alvin Kamara and Rashid Shaheed. I mean, the offensive line's doing a great job protecting there. They're doing a really nice job running the football. So it's been fun to watch there with the New Orleans Saints. Are they pretenders, you think, or are they contenders, Max?
So as a guy who grew up as a Saints fan, it's tough for me to say that they're pretenders. I lived and died by the Saints Sunday result a lot of times growing up. I want to say that they might be for real. Like, you get Clint Kubiak in there. Offense is they're humming right now. They're the opposite of what you see with the division rivals and the Panthers. They've kind of come out and put the game away early. Derek Carr scoring on 15 straight drives to start the season. Everything looks good. I know he's been around for a few years and hasn't put it all together. But a guy that I played against in college and really I think highly of him as a signal caller. He's a guy who's going to get his offense in the right play, whether that's a run or a pass, despite what's called. And I think that if this is it coming all coming together for him in the pros, this can be an offense that's dangerous all year. You have Shaheed, and Olave really hasn't had that big game yet. You know it's coming from him. Kamara is turning back the clock. They've got Taysom Hill as that Swiss Army knife. You've got Juwan Johnson. They've got a lot of weapons that can make plays at the NFL level. And so there's a big part of me wants to say they're contenders, but I might be a little bit biased there too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm a Bucs guy. I'm rooting for the Bucs. So I would like to say they're not contenders, but they look pretty good. And the fact that in that division as a whole, when you look at the betting odds, you could get the Bucs and you get the Saints for 3-1, 4-1 going into the season. I think that was a little disrespectful to both those teams and overhyping the Falcons just a little too much. But we'll save that one for another day. We got to bring up our budget plays for DFS here. Max has put together his 3 best plays here when it comes to DFS budget for defenses that's $3,000 and below. Interesting one to kick it off, Max. You got the Minnesota Vikings for $2,400 against Houston. The Houston Texans look really good on offense with C.J. Stroud. I thought they played really well against the Bears, even though Stroud was under duress in that game, even though they didn't have it all game. They still found a way to score points. So why do you like Minnesota here against them?
Yeah, and I know we say it every week, but when you're picking down here this price for defense, you a lot of times are going against those elite offenses. And so Houston, definitely elite offense, all the respect in the world for them. But we did just see this Minnesota defense go against a team that also has a very good offense in San Francisco. Brian Flores, got to give him his flowers. That scheme is tough for offenses to crack. Got a lot of guys that have position versatility, can move around, disguise things. And I think that makes it tough for offenses to kind of diagnose what they're doing pre-snap and then they got to try to figure it out post snap. And if anybody has the guys to do it, Houston does. Like you said, it is a very, very strong offense. And Nico Collins always seems to figure something out on broken plays after CJ Stroud extends something. But I think this Vikings defense is going to give teams trouble regardless of who that opponent is. If it's a weaker team, I think they're going to dominate them. And against a stronger team, I think they've got a good chance. And $2,400 is a good price point to take that chance.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what the Vikings were able to do against a Christian McCaffrey, not obviously the 49ers saw Christian McCaffrey, but look at a 49ers team that's still good. I mean, what they did against the Jets in week 1 with Jordan Mason was very impressive there. So Minnesota could definitely step up and find a way to play in this football game. It's definitely a little risky for the $2,400 price point, but you can use that elsewhere. Looking at a prop in this game, Max, touchdown score here for the Texans. You know, you're on the Minnesota Vikings defense here. Do you think Joe Mixon finds the end zone in this football game?
Well, assuming he makes it through the week and is able to play, I think that if they're going to have success, we've seen a lot of those high safeties. That's been a lot of talk. I think running the ball is where you got to try to punish teams for doing that. So I think if there's a bet that you're going to take, I think Joe Mixon to get a touchdown, I think that is a fine bet to take. I know I'm taking the Vikings defense here, but Texans are obviously not going to get shut out, and I'm going to take the touchdown and Mixon there.
Definitely. If he's suited up, I think he does find the end zone there. Yeah. Looking at your next play, the Chicago Bears defense for $2,600 against the Indianapolis Colts. This is an absolute steal, in my opinion, for the value here. I don't understand. I haven't understood all season why Anthony Richardson is so propped up when it comes to fantasy football, when it comes to DFS. I know he can run, but he turns the ball over like crazy. I think the Bears are going to force a lot of turnovers, and they looked good against CJ Stroud as much as CJ Stroud was able to convert and make elite throws. So this is a great play, Max. Why do you like this one?
You laid it out pretty good there. I was talking about it in that first segment. The Chicago Bears defense has looked really good so far this season. Looked good against a tough opponent, even though they weren't able to pull out the win. I think that, like you said, the Colts are propped up a little bit in fantasy and betting circles sometimes. Really, so far this season, without the big play, they haven't done a lot. So if they can limit those big plays, keep everything in front of them, I think that you're looking at a Colts offense that might really be struggling. And so this is a play that, like you said, I think is a steal. It's going to be, I know most weeks I'm like, might play a little bit of this one, a little bit of that one, but I know you're probably going to ask me a question later, but this is probably my favorite of the week.
It's hard not to be a favorite. And I do love the Colts offensive line, speaking from the OL perspective here. When you look at Quentin Nelson, when you look at Ryan Kelly, two absolute studs in the middle of that offensive line there. But I just don't have enough faith in Anthony Richardson to think that he's not going to turn the ball over, because it's consistently what he's done. Now, Max, the defensive lineman, going back to the playing days, when you knew there was that quarterback you're watching film, a guy that's going to turn the ball over and make mistakes, how did you approach that game versus a guy that, very clean, sit in the pocket and, he would limit his mistakes?
Well, on that one, okay, first off, too, he's also a scrambler. He's a guy that likes to move, obviously. So you've got to keep your rush lanes. Got to trust that the guys in the middle, when you're an edge, or if you're a guy in the middle, a guy on the edge, stay in their spot so that you can kind of collapse that pocket on them. But I know it's going to sound silly, but something that I like to do when you're playing a guy like that is, even on those ones where you don't quite get there, but you're maybe like a foot or two away, just make a little bit of noise, let him know that you're there, so that it's kind of in the back of his head a little bit. Like I know it sounds stupid, but it's just like one of those things like, hey, like I didn't get there, but just know I'm coming, and that pain's coming a little bit too. So just try to speed up that clock, even if you don't get there. And then, of course, when you do get there, like make sure he feels it. That always speeds up the clock a little bit. So, that's kind of how I took those kinds of matchups.
How big of a trash talker were you back in the day?
I'd say I probably I was more of a guy that I would trash talk back if I was trash talked too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't probably start it. Maybe a little bit if there was like a play. But it's more like I was the kind of guy that when I made a play, I wanted to celebrate with my teammates. But if there's a guy that's been going at me a little bit, I definitely wasn't afraid to come back. But what I'm saying is kind of just more like, hey, like, just like, even I'm not saying words, like just making some kind of noise that he knows that there's a defender back there, just getting his head a little bit. But yeah, trash talk from trash talk side of things, it's always fun. And there's guys too that when you play in the same conference, same division, you get to know them a little bit, and you got guys that you either don't like a little bit more than the other guys, and you get to maybe those games that started a little bit because you already kind of have that history, so that's always a little bit fun.
Yeah, 100%. Moving into your final DFS play here, you got the Tennessee Titans for $2,700 against the Green Bay Packers. You know, Malik Willis being the starting quarterback in this game versus Jordan Love is just, it's amazing. We're seeing this price right now because the Titans played well against the Jets. They played really well against the Bears defensively. There's definitely a lot of upside with Tennessee. We've seen that over the past few years. So, you know, how does if Jordan Love was playing in this game, would you say this is a no-go for you and it's just Malik Willis, or do you like this and no matter what?
I'd say I'd have more. Obviously, you'd be a little bit more hesitant. I think I'd still play it, but I'd like we say, if we were gonna choose 10 DFS defenses, I might choose it a few less times when I'm doing that. Excuse me. Shoot. Pardon me. So I'd still play them, but I just think this defense is a pretty strong one. We talked about it last week with those guys they have in the middle on the defensive front, with Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat there. I know they rebuilt the secondary as well this offseason. So I think they've got the pieces, and like you said, they just played the Jets offense, so I know they've got Aaron Rodgers playing back again from that injury last year, and they got Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson and those guys. And while those guys got theirs at times throughout the game, they limited a lot of those gains. And I think this is a defense that in this matchup, I think it's just a good spot for them. It's a good spot to play them, especially if, like we said, if we're seeing Malik Willis, Packers offense was, you knew what they were doing last week. They were pounding the ball with Josh Jacobs. And when you know a team's doing that, you can kind of game plan against it. And also, like we said, when a team's running against those two big guys in the middle, I think it's going to be pretty hard to move them. So I think this is a great play with Willis in there. I think it's a solid, decent play with Love in there, but you got to just kind of be a little bit more cautious with that.
Yeah. How much did your approach change when you were playing in terms of if there was a scrambling quarterback versus a pocket passer, or if a team was very run heavy versus pass heavy?
Yeah, if you're playing a scrambling quarterback, you want to make sure you stay on your edges, because especially as an edge defender, anybody who's ever played that position at any level, high school, PUE, it doesn't matter. You've heard it. Keep contained. Everybody's heard that over and over again, because we've all been burned by it once or twice. The longer you play, probably a few more times. So it's one of those things where if he gets outside the pocket and you're not out there to meet him, it could be a long day, because he could be 40 yards downfield in a hurry. On the other side, you got a pocket passer. You can take a few more chances going inside or taking that move, because if you can get back outside if he tries to scramble because he's not as fast, or if you make it, you can kind of take that inside move and still keep contain even. So it's one of those things where you can take those chances. And a few of those guys, though, are really good at maneuvering the pocket. I remember we played against Jameis in college, and he was a guy that I had my angle that I was rushing on, and every time it seemed like I was right about to get there, he just takes that half step up in the pocket. And that always kills you, because it's like, man, I had him dead to rights, and just like that little step, it helps the offensive lineman. So I know, like, as an offensive lineman, you guys love that, a guy that can do that. But it just changes your aiming point just enough to throw you off. And so gotta be careful with those guys. And that's another reason why taking that inside move kind of helps, because it takes away that opportunity to step up a little bit. So that's scrambler versus a pocket passer. And then as far as a running team, I wouldn't say it changed too much, because a lot of the coaches that I played for always emphasize you got to earn the right to pass rush. So you got to stop the run first. So that's always what I know a lot of the defensive line coaches I've been around preach, is you got to earn the right to pass rush. You got to get that knockback always, every play. And then from there, you can kind of start to get loose when your offense starts scoring and they still haven't scored because they haven't been able to move the ball, or you get into that third and long situation. So.
Yeah. As an offensive lineman, obviously you want to run the football more than sit back and protect and let 300-pound guys that can move a little bit, come right after you. So always love running the football, and always love when the run game was working. Then you don't have to even worry about passing.
Oh yeah. I know, was it Quentin Nelson had those run the damn ball hats made over there in Indianapolis, and I mean, shoot, I played offensive line in high school, so I do empathize with that feeling for sure. So it's yeah, you definitely love to kind of maul and get down on the line, get dirty a little bit, and yeah, it's always fun.
Definitely. So looking at your biggest mismatch of the week, you got the San Francisco 49ers going against the LA Rams. This would be a $3,500 price tag. You know, hefty price tag from a DFS perspective.
Yeah.
Is it worth paying this much, or would you rather lean towards a mismatch and, you know, have some more money for your offensive players?
Yeah, like I kind of alluded to earlier, I just love that Chicago Indianapolis price way too much. I probably am looking to spend down and use that $900 saving somewhere else. But this is a pretty big mismatch in my opinion, because you've got the Rams who have been down on offensive linemen a little bit. Aiden Hutchinson just had a big game in week 1. You just went against that Cardinals team that dismantled them this last week, which that might be one of those burn the tape games. So like, I don't want to put too much stock into that, but I think this is a good opportunity for Bosa and crew to get loose. You got Javon Hargrave. You just got we talked about it a lot last year. They've got so many guys. They're just so deep at that pass rushing group, and they're gonna force you into situations where you gotta throw the ball. They've got guys at all 3 levels of the defense. We saw one of the best plays I've seen by a defensive player in a long time by Fred Warner last week, making an interception against Sam Darnold, where like I can't even blame Sam Darnold for throwing the ball there, because it didn't look like Fred Warner was anywhere to make that play. So it's just one of those things where this is a really good defense against a team that had a bad outing. They're down a couple of weapons on offense, obviously. Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp both looking like they're going to be out for a while. So Matt Stafford's starting to lose some of his friends there, and I think this is a good opportunity to play them if you're looking to spend up. But back to your original question, I don't know if I'm going to be playing them a whole lot when you got that Chicago Indianapolis price.
Yeah, there's so many good budget plays this week. It's hard to lean towards a $3,500 defense, but you know, San Francisco's defense, they did look good against the Vikings. I know they gave up the big play to Justin Jefferson, but a lot of times the offense was putting them in just really bad situations. So you're going to get production there if you start the Niners against the Rams, but save that money and use it somewhere else. So you've kind of alluded to it already. It looks like it's the Chicago Bears against the Indianapolis Colts. If you have to rank them, though, so Minnesota, Chicago, Tennessee, what's the order you're putting them in?
Minnesota, Chicago, Tennessee. So Chicago, like we said, number 1. I think then we get it's a little bit tougher for the next 2, because I think for me, I like the Minnesota defense better than the Tennessee defense, just a little bit, but the matchup's a little bit tougher than what we're seeing with Tennessee. I do think just slightly, I probably lean to Tennessee for the 2nd spot, and then I'll go Minnesota 3rd, but pretty close to a toss-up for those 2. But yeah, Chicago is, I think, my runaway number 1. When I saw that price when I logged into the app, I was just like, I could see myself playing this quite a bit this week.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, Chicago's defense, if they had a half-decent offensive line, I don't want to put the blame on Caleb yet, because he does not have any time to throw the football. But if they had a decent offensive line and Caleb was playing okay, they would be winning football games because of how good their defense has been. So I would go Chicago. I do like Tennessee against Green Bay, even though it's a little more, and then Minnesota for $2,400. But, you know, if you want to take a risk on a few of your lineups, Minnesota is definitely a good spot to go.
Yep, I would agree with that totally.
So, Max, that was in the trenches for week 3. If you're looking forward to one thing in football this weekend, what is it?
One thing in football this weekend, I think, man, so we already talked about it a little bit, but I really do want to see that matchup that we talked about for 2,400, that Houston, Minnesota, because you got 2 teams that are really good at what they do. You got Houston, they have a lot of weapons over there on that side. They got a quarterback that's ascending, had a great rookie season. Obviously, he's not showing signs of that sophomore slump. He's making plays happen, extending plays with his legs. He's not a scrambler, but he's one of those guys that's gonna keep his eyes downfield, kind of keep the play going. And he's got guys that will get open in those scramble situations. So looking forward to seeing them versus that Flores defense. I know, like I said, they like to disguise a lot of things, use guys in different spots, make it tough for them to get that pre-snap read. So really excited for that one. I think it's going to be fun. And then just, I guess in general, we talked about the NFC South as well. Just see if somebody can slow down the Saints. It's really fun seeing them score a lot of points because it's just night and day from where they were last year with that offense. So with Carmichael there, and so Clint Kubiak seems to really have rejuvenated that offense with a lot of the same personnel. Obviously, a little bit they added a little bit up front with Fuaga there in the draft, and but yeah, it's a lot of the same personnel, and it's just night and day seeing that offense.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. I'm excited to see if that Saints team is legit. Now, the Eagles' defense is not great, so I do think the Saints can step up and have a strong performance this weekend. They're a favorite in that football game. I'm also looking forward to seeing if Daniel Jones can figure it out just a little bit. It's going to be hard against the Cleveland Browns, but that's always a good storyline, seeing how long he's going to be the starting quarterback there for. And then, obviously Chiefs-Falcons, I think that's going to be a fun game to watch as well. No Pacheco for the Chiefs on Sunday night. Going against Falcons team, which very overhyped in my opinion, and I think they are going to get their second loss. And if the Eagles made a couple more plays down the stretch, they'd be 0-2 right now.
Shoot, they just need to make that one play, get the first down. But talking about the Giants there, shoot, I don't think anybody does that offseason Hard Knocks again after what happened there, because it's just seeing behind the scenes some of the things that they were saying about their roster construction and. It's just, like you said, they stuck with Daniel Jones, obviously, and that week-to-week storyline is an interesting one. It's a good soap opera there in New York.
Yeah, I don't know why anyone would want to do off-season Hard Knocks, just because that's when you're assembling your team. At least in the fall, like, guys are getting cut, but the guys in the building are the ones that you're going with, and you're going to cut them, and there's drama. We know how it operates, but like the off season is just totally different. Some of the stuff that came out about Saquon, it's bulletin board material. It's not good.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. As a fan, it was fun to watch though, because even like as a guy that me and you both played, and you don't get to sit in those meetings, so we don't know all about that kind of side of things. So it's fun. We get to bring our playbook in when it's time for that. But it's kind of fun to see the other side of things. But I don't think too many people are going to be rushing to do that one.
No, definitely not. But that was In the Trenches for week 3 with Tanner Kern and Maxx Forde. We'll be back for week 4, breaking down DFS and betting for the slate. Thanks for joining, guys. We'll talk to you soon.